some point.
Just delete crap if you need it.
Right.
You might need to because I'm talking.
I know,
drop
because
a bomb on you.
You have no filter.
That's very accurate. And it's actually better than it used to be, so that's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, you've grown up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Can we
All
put
right.
that in the podcast?
Inside MNU Athletics, Episode 2. I am with MNU head men's soccer coach Kevin Wardlaw. Thanks for coming on the show, Kevin.
No problem at all, buddy.
How many years is this for you? What year is this starting at MNU?
Yikes. I think this is my 18th season.
That sounds
So
right.
2003 was the first season. So, yeah.
And how did you get here?
I was at Hardin-Simmons University down in Texas for 4 years as a head coach. And, yeah, man, just I got a call out of the blue from MNU. My parents still lived here at the time, and we moved here when I was 13, so a lot of connections. And the soccer job had come open, and somebody had mentioned it to the president at the time, and he went to the AD, and they gave me a call. And so, long story, but I'm here. I've been here.
And what's your soccer life? What is your soccer background?
I grew up overseas, so grew up playing the game, but just in a very, very rudimentary
Let's fix those
form.
sleeves first.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
Start again.
Now you're looking sharp.
There we go. It was the muscle.
Well, let's
Curved it.
skip back. Yes. So tell me about your soccer life and background. You grew up overseas.
Yeah.
So go ahead and talk about that too.
Yeah, so I grew up overseas.
Where?
We were in Swaziland, Africa, which is now East Swatini. It's a very small country, very close to South Africa. It's basically landlocked between South Africa and Mozambique. So
Everybody knows where that is.
Yeah, exactly. Just go down to the southern tip of Africa and just look around. You'll find a little place.
Southeast then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Missionary kid. Went there when I was 4. Came back when I was 13. Soccer was the sports we played there, but it was in the streets.
Right.
Nothing organized, of course. It was a third world country, and so when I moved back here, that's kind of what I knew, and so thankfully my parents got me involved in that in a more organized fashion here in the United States. And then I went on to play in high school, played in college, and started coaching straight out of college.
So did you, when you were growing up in Swaziland, in a third world country, what was that experience like for you? You didn't know any different. Did you come back to the States occasionally?
We
for
came
furloughs
back
and
once.
whatnot?
Yeah, so we were back for about 9 months when I was in 3rd grade. So I remember that very vividly. Obviously, we were in Yakima, Washington for that furlough. And so you go from, anytime you go from a third world Africa country back to the United States, it really doesn't matter where in the United States you go.
Right.
It's going to be culture shock. So, so yeah, I remember that. But, my growing up kind of process in Africa was incredible. I am incredibly blessed to have been able to experience that.
Right. So what does that do to you psychologically now that you live in the United States and people complain about little things or whatever? Does that, as a kid, you couldn't complain about anything like that, especially living how you were living. So what is that like for you psychologically when people are complaining or first world problems, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
How has that shaped how you see the world, I should say?
That's a great question, because I think one of the dangers is that even though I did live in that way, once you move to the United States and you move back to the first world, you become a first world person.
Right.
So I'm the one that complains about the stupid crap. You know what I mean? So I think for me, what it does is it's a constant reminder when I begin to complain about little things, or begin to, I hear my kids complain about certain stuff, that it takes me back, and I go, wait a minute, I know differently. I've experienced what, real kind of complaining looks like.
Right.
And so I think that for me has been a great reminder, especially as I've got older. It's helped shape how I raise my kids as well.
Yeah.
So we actually took my kids back to Swaziland in December specifically to show them where I grew up, but also they've grown up in Johnson County.
Right.
So it's the first of the first world.
Right. I was going to ask something and then I forgot. You just dropped off your daughter at college to talk about that. I hear that is a massive life stage the first time you do that.
It is nuts.
So
there's nothing that can prepare you for it.
Right.
I remember getting dropped off, and I was kind of a punk 19-year-old kid who thought he was going to go away and rejoice, and I got out of the car, took a few steps, and went, oh boy. So.
And where did you go? Talk about that too.
I went to Olivet, so similar.
Olivet Nazarene for the
Olivet Nazarene in Bourbonnais, Illinois. So about 8.5 hours from home. We dropped my oldest daughter off at Colorado Christian, which is about 8.5, 9 hours from home, nothing prepares you for it. It's definitely a marker in life,
right?
And it's just one of those things. So I would say we're still getting used to it.
I've got an 8th grader this year, so I know that it's still years away, but it's also a blink of an eye away. I know that.
Yeah,
so
100%.
That's going to be strange.
Yeah.
We have had to deal with this COVID situation. You and I have a plastic barrier between us right now as we talk about this. How is that going with your team as we get back on campus?
Yeah, I think the guys are doing well. I mean, what I remind people all the time, even myself, is take yourself back to being 18, 19, 20 years old in college, and imagine if you were told you have to wear a mask and stay 6 foot apart, and, blah, blah, blah. Would you be able to do it?
Right.
And
I'm not able to do it right now,
right.
So I don't know.
I've told my guys multiple times I would have been a really, really bad COVID student athlete.
Right.
So I'm proud of the guys. I think for us, the thing is we want to play.
Right.
And so every time I start to complain or, get ticked off at something we have to do, I just remind myself that we're very blessed to be able to train and play. There's a lot of coaches and a lot of kids around the country that aren't doing it. Right here in Kansas City, we got a ton of schools not playing. So,
and you and I talked about this the other day, how stubborn we thought we were when it came to wearing masks at the beginning of all this.
Yeah.
I was saying, you'll never see me in a mask, man. I'm not doing it. Just as part of a stubborn personality. You got me blown out of the water when it comes to stubborn personalities. So, and you were like, yeah, I was the same way. But as we got closer and closer to playing and getting back to sports, I was like, put me in a hazmat suit. I don't care. I want to be out there doing this.
Right. And
covering sports and watching sports, because you don't know what you got until it's gone, and it was gone for a long time. And so if Kevin Wardlaw and Chad Jenkins can wear masks, even though it's the worst thing ever, then our players can, and it's great that they're doing it, because I want to see us out there too.
Yeah, I agree.
Talk about your testimony, your faith background. You grew up as a missionary kid.
Yeah.
So obviously you were in a culture of Christianity and church and everything like that. What was that? What was your childhood?
Yeah, I was incredibly blessed to be raised in a phenomenal home. Obviously faith was a major, major part of me growing up, and but my journey probably took. I think faith is your own choice, and so for me, probably right around the age of 16, I made a decision that I wasn't going to follow, Christ. I wasn't going to follow the rules. To be honest with you, that's what it was to me. It was
right.
Rules.
That's part of your personality in general, right?
Right, and it didn't make any sense. I didn't understand the legalism that existed at the time. Just didn't make any sense. And so I wasn't going to follow the rules. And so that I reached a point where I was like, okay, I'm not doing this. And so that I went through various phases of that process until I was 23. And at 23, what I explain is that I was exhausted. So I had tried everything in my own way to find fulfillment, to find purpose, and it went from everything from trying to be the best athlete to the best student to the most popular to the partier to the funny guy, and it was all empty. even when you succeeded, I had a very good athletic career, but what I've told my guys even the other day in our soccer chapel was, even at the highest level of achievement in my sports, I was still empty, because I reached the goal and I was happy about it, but it was kind of like 10 days later, it was like,
right.
Now what? So at 23, I made a choice to quote, give God a try. And that's when my faith journey started. And so that's been an ongoing, and it's a day-by-day experience in a relationship with God, but the most important change that I made is it became my faith.
Right.
It was my journey. It was my relationship. And I'm still figuring it out.
Right. Now, did your parents as missionaries with their black sheep child or wayward child, was it a big deal? Was it like, did it get that bad where they were really concerned, or did they just know that you needed to figure it out for yourself? What was it like for missionary parents to have their own kid not follow in line?
Yeah, that's a good question, and probably a great question for them.
Right.
I would say that my understanding is that they didn't know as much about how I was living and some of the decisions that I had made. So there was some sense of sheltering that I, in a sense, sheltered them away from that because I knew it would hurt them.
Right.
But I would say this, is that even as they knew that I was struggling, I guess, in my faith, I never doubted that they loved me, and I never doubted that they continued to pray for me, and what they wanted for me was very real.
Right.
And I think that's the major influence that they had on me, was true unconditional love, even when I knew they knew that I wasn't living the way that they would say, and there was probably a decent level of disappointment in that.
Right. You talked about your athletic career. Go ahead and talk about that. What was your position? What were your accolades and awards? How did that go?
Yeah, so
go ahead and brag about yourself for a little bit. That's fine.
Yeah, that's. I'll start squirming here.
Yeah.
I was really, really blessed, again, just to be, I guess, raised the way I was. And so when I moved back here and we got into organized sports, I didn't really realize what being an athlete was, or being athletic was, but fairly quickly I was told that I was really fast and I could jump really far and high, and I was a really good athlete. And so I played everything in Africa. And so in soccer, I obviously took to that. But even my soccer career was unique because I played all the positions. And so I was a really good striker because I was really fast, but I was also a really good goalkeeper. And so my career was very unique in that I played goalkeeper and striker, both at the high school and the college level.
I knew you were a keeper. I didn't know that you were anything else.
Yeah, and it came from being injured in college. In high school, I was used where the team needed me. And so, there was actually my senior year, there was a couple games where I started in goal, and our team got scored on, and I came off the field, switched jerseys, and I went up top. And so my soccer career in college, I was fortunate to be a starter at the goalkeeper position all 4 years. And then we had 3 of our 4 years we did really, really well, and made the NCCAA regional final. And I was, all conference a couple times. And then the other part of my athletic career was I got discovered as a track athlete. And it started in 8th grade, and I'll never forget it. One of the PE coaches was like, "Wardlaw, you've got track today at 3 o'clock." And I had no clue what he was talking about.
Right.
And I was kind of like, okay. And so at 3 o'clock, I walked out to the track, and that's how my track career started. And so I went through that, and then in high school,
what type of track? 400 type middle distance?
So I did quite a few things early on, but then 9th grade is when I specifically know that my track coach put me in the long jump, and I was very good at it. And remember back then, that was 9th grade was still junior high in Olathe.
Okay.
And so I would run, but I would say I was focused on the long jump. And then my sophomore year, you go to high school, and I went to Olathe South, and I was incredibly blessed to have Coach Quinn and Coach Wallace as the track coaches there.
Are they still there? I don't know those names.
So Coach Wallace actually just passed away last week.
Oh, wow.
And absolutely incredible man.
I saw that on Facebook now that I think about it.
Yeah, he was, and I actually got to connect with Coach Quinn at his memorial. They did his memorial service at the track at Olathe East, which was really cool. And so I was very, very blessed to have those two men invest in me. And Coach Quinn was my triple jump coach. And so he introduced me and coached me to triple jump. I ended up being, I still hold the record at Olathe South in the triple jump.
Nice.
It turned 30 years old last May, which is incredible.
Yeah.
I never dreamed it would last that long. I finished third in 6A state a couple times, and then I went on to college. And so when I went to college, I went on a soccer and a track scholarship. Long story short, track, I ended up being a 4-time All-American in the triple jump. And thoroughly enjoyed both sports. Very, very different. One very, very individual, and one extremely team-oriented.
Right.
And so I learned a ton from both experiences.
So that leads me into the next question. Who were your biggest influences as a player? Are those two coaches the guys that you immediately go to?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's in soccer and track, or those two were just track?
Those were just track, but as far as coaches, those are the guys that impacted me. And it's really not even close. Those two were, other than my dad, those were the men that invested in me as, a punk 16, 17-year-old kid.
Right.
They didn't let me get by with crap. They challenged me, and really instilled a lot of things through sports that still exist in me today. And, when Coach Wallace passed away, I made a Facebook post, and this is the statement I mean, there's a big reason why I coach today is because of his impact on me. He made me realize that coaches could actually impact athletes away from the sport in bigger things. And it took me a long time to realize the impact that he and Coach Quinn had on me.
So that's the next question also. Your biggest influences as a player, followed by who influenced you most as a coach, and your philosophy and your style and how to manage players. It's all from those guys.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously as a coach you grow, right? So
Right.
Who I am as a coach today wasn't the coach that I was when I was at Hardin-Simmons,
Right.
And I think we continually have to and be challenged to evolve as coaches. So I've taken influences from a lot of other coaches and things that I see. And honestly, I've learned a lot from what not to do.
Right.
Coaches that I had, I feel lucky to have had because they showed me what not to do.
That happens too, sure.
Right? So it's not just the positive, it's also the negative and how you use that to not make those same mistakes as a coach.
And what is your coaching philosophy? If you could put it in a paragraph, what's your philosophy? That's the question.
Yeah. I always ask that question, and I think it's you think of a philosophy as being something that doesn't necessarily change. It's fairly foundational.
Right.
And I think there is a truth to that, but I would say my philosophy continues to evolve. And a lot of it has to do with what society and culture are actually teaching. So, 20 years ago, I may have had, athletes who had been raised to have leadership qualities. And then my philosophy was to refine those leadership qualities through the sport so that they would leave my program as leaders in their families, in their communities, in their jobs, their businesses. 20 years later, I would say that we're not refining leadership qualities, we are creating leadership qualities. Because I don't think our culture and our society, current form, is producing leaders the same way it did 20 years ago. And so I think that philosophy for me in coaching, it tweaks a little bit, but the biggest thing is I want the guys who play for me to go out away from MNU or the soccer team.
Right.
And I want them to be leaders in their communities. I want to be leaders in their families.
So if society right now isn't necessarily creating leaders, what is it creating? Is it creating followers or just not good enough leaders? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I just think the current culture, and I deal with it with my kids, right? I think social media has greatly influenced.
It's changed the world for sure.
It's huge, and so, it's put what is already a pressure-packed situation from, let's say, 7th grade through 12th grade, where you have social pressure and you're trying to figure out who you are,
right,
and what's your place in the world, and are you liked, are you disliked, are you popular, are you not, are you talented, are you not.
Now that's right there on the phone.
Exactly. It's magnified it. And so
there's scorekeeping on the phone.
Right. And then just the mode of communication. We don't talk face to face. So conflict resolution. If I have a conflict with you, I used to speak to you and say, hey, I don't like that.
Right.
And now I text about it. And I might not even text you. I might actually social media post about you, and it goes out to the world. And so I just think some of the things that our kids are being taught aren't great things for them as they move into adult life. And so I just think that the culture where it currently exists, as I've explained it, it makes it so that we as coaches, we as teachers, we as adults, we as parents, the responsibility that we have to develop our kids into leadership roles and how to communicate, how to deal with conflict, are even more important, because I'm not sure that the way you and I grew up that taught us that. We dealt with conflict on the playground. That's why there were playground skirmishes, right?
Those weren't all bad.
No,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely not. And people listen to this might cringe right now because we're not advocating playground fights. But
when 10 years ago or so, when anti-bullying legislation stuff started becoming so popular and stuff, I was like, yeah, of course we shouldn't have bullies, but man, those bullies sure did. They let you know where you stood, and you had to learn how to deal with them, and they weren't wrong all the time. They were just jerks. Maybe you shouldn't have worn those stupid pants, right? My kids wear stupid pants to school all the time because no bully is telling them that looks stupid. I think I should take that role sometimes. But at that level, when you're talking about never facing conflict on the schoolyard, I don't know if that's good.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just a weird.
There's definitely that fine line.
Unintended
that
consequence. Yeah.
Right. There's that balance, just like in anything. There's a balance somewhere. Right. Is bullying an issue? Yeah, it's an issue. But like you said, I can name you 3 stories in my life where I dealt with a bully, and I can still remember them to this day. And I would say that most of what happened from it was positive in my life.
Right.
Now, it wasn't great to go through, but it sure was a moment that shaped me.
Right. And of course, there are still bullies. It's just a different form. Yeah. And it's a lot more public and a lot more.
Well, it's behind the scenes too.
Right. Public and private. So it's crazy.
I know it is.
So when you are recruiting, what are you saying to kids? And this has changed, I'm guessing, over 20 years. How are you getting, because your team specifically, from all over the world, we got South America, we got Europe, is there any Africa? You've had some before.
Yeah, we've got guys who were born in Africa. Yeah. They're natural. They're American citizens now, but they're originally from Africa.
But your teams over the last at least 10 years have been so multicultural and multi-ethnic. What is your pitch to get these people from all over the world to come to smack dab in the middle of the United States?
Yeah, it does change, and it almost changes kid to kid. As you are recruiting, you're getting to know the individual, and so I don't typically have a pitch, but I would say that there's a couple things that are in every single talk. The culture that we've created at MNU and our team it's a family, it's a brotherhood, and so I talk about you're going to not just join a team, you're going to join a family, and that's important because you need to know that, because there's responsibilities when you join a family.
Right.
We're asking guys to be selfless. That's the way a family unit works the best, is when people are selfless and they give everything they have for the benefit of others. And so I want our guys to know that that's something they're joining. And then probably the second thing is the style of soccer that we play
Mm-hmm.
is a possession-based system. And so that is very intentional, and it's very, very influential in their experience. And so those two things are definitely in both, because they need to know that so that they're either excited about that or they can say, you know what, that's not for me. And so I would say that in my, quote, recruiting pitch, those two things are very, very consistent.
Right. And I have seen, I'm not a soccer guy, but I've been watching your team for 13 years now.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I do see and I notice is that these guys really do love each other, it seems like.
Yeah.
And you can have some guy, like a group of Brazilians yelling at each other in Portuguese, and it seems like a really heated argument. And I asked you about it later. It's like, hey, were those guys fighting or whatever? And you're like, you had brothers, right? Yeah. Do you fight with your brother? Yeah. And that's all it was. It's
Right.
not like a heated fists and tomorrow we're still mad at each other. It's just we need to deal with something, and we're a family, and that's how we do it. And I've seen that from all different languages and cultures, and I really think it's cool watching your teams do what they do.
Yeah.
What do you have this year? What is this year's team like? And go ahead and go through. You've got 1 million guys. I put them on the roster, but
Yeah.
what do we got this year? It's a totally new team, it seems.
Yeah. So last year was a rough year, and we learned a lot of lessons. And so I think out of last year, the first and foremost thing was that those that were going to return were going to be committed to who we are at MNU and getting us back to where we expect to be. And so we brought back a very, very dedicated, very, very motivated group of men. We did a lot of leadership training in the spring. And so those guys have done a great job coming back and setting the tone, setting the example. And then because of the last couple years, just with the way classes work and transferring and stuff, this was going to be a bigger recruiting year. And so we have essentially 14 new guys, and I believe it's 10 freshmen.
Wow.
And so, but the group as a whole is doing really, really well. Chemistry is really, really developing positively. We do this classroom talk, and it's called the speed of trust. And trust is a foundational element for any team, but trust takes a long time to create,
Right.
and no time to break. And so we don't have the time when you're preparing for a season to build trust over a long period of time like it typically takes. So there's a classroom talk we do called the speed of trust, and it's essentially taking the things that you need to build trust, the actions that you yourself are responsible for individually, and even then the way that I respond to you as I'm getting to know you. And what we want to do is build trust much quicker
Right.
than is typical. And this group's doing a great job. So it's been super fun so far to train. I also think COVID has a lot to do with it. I
Right.
think not that we don't appreciate what we have, but when it's taken away in the manner in which it was, in a manner in which none of us could have ever imagined or dreamed or even nightmared, to be honest with you.
Right.
So when we're out there and you're dealing with conflict, you can almost see it in these guys a little bit of, yeah, it's really, really hot, but dude, we get to play.
Right.
And we are doing this. And so I think that has also helped shape the chemistry of our team right now.
Who's your favorite soccer coach? Like, is there a professional coach that you really like, that you look up to and take stuff from, that kind of thing?
Yeah, there's probably multiple, but my all-time favorite coach, without a question, is Sir Alex Ferguson. So he's retired, but he was the Man U coach forever and ever, and I grew up loving that team. And
That's your team. That's
Yeah.
Man U is your team.
yeah, Manchester United's been my team since I was a kid, way back in Africa.
Right. And so when you came here, Man U was our name, like
I know.
Mid-American Nazarene University.
I know.
Manu. So that was perfect for you.
Yeah, I know. I see it on the TV every now and then,
Right.
where certain broadcasters and they'll put, instead of MANU, they'll put MNU
Right,
for
I've seen that
Manchester
too.
United, and
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, there you go.
What about coaches from other sports that you look up to and take stuff from? Do you have any of those?
Yeah, I don't follow a ton of other sports, but I would say just from a coaching perspective, there's probably two things. Coaches that win all the time
Right.
are always guys that impress me, because now that I've done this for so long, I know how hard it is to win consistently.
Right.
And so in any sport, when you find those coaches, it's those guys that you just marvel at. No matter where they go, they win. I was a massive Bulls fan during the Jordan era, and I was very lucky to be at Olivet Nazarene right outside of Chicago right during that time.
That's when I was in junior high and high school was the 90s run there. I was right there in Northern Illinois.
Yeah. So, Phil Jackson
Right.
just absolutely mesmerized me with the way that he was able to shape teams and, coach the elite. And it didn't really seem to matter where he went. He had success.
Right.
And so I think
people who go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So guys that win a lot are guys that, intrigue me.
Right.
And I kind of watch and see, man, what is it that makes them different?
Right. And people talk about Jackson as well. If I had Michael and Scotty and Kobe and Shaq, I could win 11 titles too. But those players didn't win before or after Phil Jackson.
Correct. Yeah.
As pairs anyway.
Right.
So there was something that he had that could get through to those super massive Kobe Michael type
Right.
egos that made them do what they do, and I've always been fascinated by that too.
Yeah.
So you're a Manchester United guy. I was going to go through your favorite teams. Is that you're just number one, Man U all the way?
Yeah. Yeah, there's really not much else, to be honest with you. That's kind of my go-to watch for soccer is the Premier League, and we're really lucky here in the U.S. because we actually televise more games of the Premier League in the U.S. than they do in the U.K.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
How did you meet your wife? Let's go back to your family situation.
Yeah. So after I graduated from Olivet, I started a master's degree there, and then I got an opportunity to move to Cumberland College at the time, which is now University of the Cumberlands in Kentucky.
Right.
And I was the GA. So I trained the goalkeepers, and they paid for my master's, and I was there 3 seasons. Tina was a student there and played soccer for the women's team. And then when she graduated, she was the GA for the women's team. And so we had met, we knew each other from
Right.
just, obviously the interaction between the men's and the women's team. But then near the end of her senior year, we had been talking and stuff and started dating, and then just that relationship continued to evolve. And then I got my first head coaching job in January in Texas, and so I moved there, and we were engaged, and then we got married that summer, and then that summer she moved out to Texas. So
Nice.
yeah.
You've got 3 daughters.
Yeah.
One just dropped her off at school, and then what are they? Yeah, go ahead and talk about.
Yeah, we've
Talk
got
about talk
our
about your
oldest
kids.
is a freshman at Colorado Christian, so she's enjoying it, and that was her first choice school, so super pumped that worked for her. And then our middle is a junior at Olathe West, and then our youngest is an 8th grader. And
What sports are they into?
so the oldest is running cross country and track at Colorado Christian. The
My
middle,
younger brother went to Colorado Christian, by the way.
oh, there you go.
Yeah, so
Then you
I've
like
I've been there once. Yeah, I visited him once.
it. Yeah, good school.
Beautiful place. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I hear that they are growing as other small colleges are hoping to stand pat and even folding and shrinking and stuff like that. I hear that CCU has got something figured out where they're
Yeah.
on the charge.
They do an incredible job with their admissions process and their marketing, and yeah, they've got it figured out for sure.
Yeah.
Good school with really good people, so we were super happy that that's where she ended up. So yeah, our middle is a cross country runner and a soccer player. And then our youngest has played a lot of different sports, but her main sport is soccer. And right now that's pretty much all she's doing now as an 8th grader is soccer. So
nice. What are your interests outside of soccer? Does that even exist?
Oh yeah.
Other than family, of course, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
what are your...
So I'd say my second passion and an athletic endeavor is skiing.
Okay.
Love to ski.
Colorado Christian, a good place to go visit to ski then, too.
My parents actually live at 9,000 feet, and so
in Colorado?
Oh yeah, right. So we got introduced to skiing when I was 17, 18, and then our whole family just kind of took to it, and so it's probably the second. I love to do it, and we try to do it when we can. With mom and dad living right next to the slopes, it's a lot easier.
Where do they live?
They live in Silverthorne.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went to Breckenridge when I was out of college, and I hadn't really skied before. And you know that video of the dude tumbling down the mountain head over heels?
Yeah, the many.
Yes. Every time I watch that video, I'm like, why can't that guy just stop? Like, just stop doing that. Well, when you're the one going head over heels, after I was going way too fast and slammed into somebody and started flipping down the mountain, I was thinking, while I was really getting hurt and flipping through the air, I was thinking about that video, and I was like, oh, this is why you can't stop, because there's nothing you can do. And I could hear the people on the ski lift above me even going, whoa, look at that guy, even as I was slamming my head over and over. So skiing's not my thing, but I understand that if you're good at it, it's more fun than what I had.
Yeah, we enjoy it a lot, and so we call what you just described the yard sale.
Yeah.
So
because everything goes flying.
Everything's everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, skiing's probably it, and then I love outdoor stuff. So
what's up?
I love to.
What? For what? It's plugged in.
That's not right.
Oh, this isn't the wrong computer. It's not dead, right? It's just almost dead?
Not yet.
Okay, let's go.
It's about to.
Yeah. Other side. We need to plug in computers during podcasts for them to work properly.
Yeah.
You good? Good talk.
Yeah, I would say other than skiing, I love outdoor stuff. So my getaway time just to kind of unwind is, I'll play golf and I'll fish. So, but
all right, final topic I wanted to go through, and this relates to your team specifically because of the multiculturalism. Right now in our country is insane time for the Black Lives Matter movement and race relations. You've got a team that has people from all over the world: Canada, France, Brazil, Trinidad and Tobago, Uruguay, Austria, Argentina, Baton Rouge, Arizona, Brazil, Italy. And you can put them in a situation, and they've got common goals and a family atmosphere, and it works despite the different skin colors, despite the different backgrounds, races, religions. How do you do that? And what do you think are can our country do that somehow? Is there a way out of this?
it's a really, really good question, and it's something I've struggled with and still struggle with because of where I was brought up.
Right.
So you go all the way back to me growing up as a kid in an African nation that is 99.8% black,
right,
and I'm white. So I grew up the minority. I can tell you, I've said this multiple times, I don't understand racism because I cannot see color. I just don't.
Right.
I've never understood it. And so through this, I've tried to dive into my own, I guess, inability to see color, to say, is that an issue or is that the way it should be? Because
right.
I don't.
And people don't like to hear that right now.
No, absolutely
it's
not.
bad to be colorblind.
Right, exactly. But that's truly how it is.
Right.
I have literally had experiences and friends and grown up in so many different environments.
And what was that like as the only white kid? Were you picked on, or was
No.
it just whatever?
No, I didn't know I was white and they were black.
Right.
I'm telling you.
Right.
Like, I
No.
didn't see the difference. And we were right next to a country who was right in the middle of apartheid.
Right.
So when we would go on, quote, vacation to South Africa, there are multiple stories where I would, as a kid, drink out of the wrong water fountain.
Oh yeah.
And my parents would grab me in order to be respective of what was happening and not create
Right.
conflict. They would grab me and say, and they'd move me over to the correct water fountain, or I'd start heading into the wrong bathroom. And I remember as a kid being glared at. So I was
On
a
vacation.
white, right? So I was a
Right.
white kid drinking out of the wrong water fountain, and you'd turn around, your parents would grab you and just kind of nudge you over to the other one, and you'd turn and you'd look, and you'd see white people glaring at you. So even in the midst of all of that, in a way, it's just, on vacation you go from that, and then you go back to a country where, other than other missionary kids, I was surrounded by my African friends.
Right.
And so I didn't, people ask me that, what was it like there as a white person? I didn't know I was white. It sounds like dumb, but that's the only
Right.
way I know how to explain it. And I'm telling you, I've delved into that statement to say,
You
that
recognized
an issue?
that you looked different, but it wasn't an issue whatsoever.
No, not
Right.
at all. Not at all.
We
And-
went to Kenya when I was 12, and my little brother would have been 8 or 7. And we were there for 2 weeks. My dad was teaching at a university. And my little brother would go outside and play with his little action figures, and the whole neighborhood would come. This was Nairobi, so it was like it looks like a normal suburban village, basically, houses and whatnot. But there would be 20 little African kids in our front yard playing with my little brother, and there wasn't any animosity. It was just a novelty, like they called them Mizugu, white bread or whatever. And that's what our family was. We were the white bread family for 2 weeks, and there wasn't any animosity at all. So I understand, especially from little kids playing together,
Right.
they don't care at all. My kids, I have 2 adopted kids who are black and 2 white biological kids, and they don't understand what's going on, because it's like, we're just people, right? And of course, as you get older, you start to realize the history and the struggle and the different things. But yeah, in Africa, we didn't experience anything other than the occasional glance at people who look different.
Yeah. So I think that's been, as we've gone through this period the last few months, that's been a lot of the questions for me, is what part do I play in helping heal this? Because you can't just walk around saying, oh, I don't see color.
Right.
You're right. It's not going to help right now.
Right.
On our team specifically, I look at exactly what you said, man. We've got every color in the book. I mean, we're as diverse gets. And I've never seen, in all of my years, any of our guys treat anyone differently because of that. But it goes back to the concept which you said you found amazing in our team, and I take it as a massive compliment.
Right.
The culture within our team is a family, like I said. So if you're truly a part of this family and you truly love one another and they're brothers, nothing else, that surplants everything else. So I would love to tell you that as guys enter our team of different color, creed, ethnicity, culture, religion, that they learn very quickly that is secondary to who they are as people.
Right.
And that's what they get to know each other based on who that person is, and not what they look like, not what they believe, not where they come from. And so there's, in a sense, I guess I'm going to call it like a purity in the way that they get to know each other.
Right.
So if
Athletics,
that can exist,
athletics seems to do that, bring people together,
yeah, I
who
think,
otherwise may not.
right, you have a common passion and you have a common kind of influence, which is a great place to start, right? So you come and you're passionate about getting your education and playing a sport you love. But here's the deal, and maybe this is too simplistic, but if you can do it on a team with that many guys, with that many diversities, I believe it can be done in a community. I believe it can be done in a neighborhood. I believe it can be done in a city, a region, a state, a country. How do we get there? I think it's baby steps, but I think it starts with what we've created in our team, which is value the person, who they are, and in a sense, try to be colorblind.
Right.
Try to be blind to everything except who they are as a person and get to know them as a person.
As an individual.
Right.
And you've created a common bond with this team, with soccer specifically and at MNU. So on a larger scale, we seem to need to find a common culture and a common theme and a common thing that we can all agree upon. And it doesn't seem to exist right now, because even if you say, well, look, the American ideals that we've espoused for 250 years is, look, everybody can come here and pursue their dream and do what they want, but it always hasn't been perfect. But you can still aspire to, that's my team, right? I'm on MNU soccer. I'm a United States of American, right? And we should be on the same team, and we can fight within the team but still be brothers. But even that seems to be eroding, where the common culture of what the United States is supposed to be about is starting to come apart, it seems. And I feel like that needs to be mended before anything can happen, because we don't even agree on a starting point.
Yeah.
It
I
seems
agree.
like.
Yeah.
Where, yes, we are supposed to bring everybody in and be all one culture and one nation and united. But some people didn't come here on purpose.
Right.
Some people seem to be wanting to be pushed away. And so the very foundation of it is shaky right now, and that's, I fear where it's headed, but I'm also optimistic that perhaps we can get through it, but I don't know how it is. So I'd like to get coaches' perspectives who always bring people together and have a common goal and a common culture, and certainly your team is a huge example of that.
Yeah. I guess just the hope is that the guys that are on our teams that see that are then able to take that back into their own communities, and their life journey leads them all over the world. Literally, we have alumni all over the world, and you hope that they proliferate that experience in their own small group, and then hopefully that does make a difference. But I agree with you. I think we almost need to strip away everything and see people for who they are. We identify people with so many monikers. You know, right now we're so political.
Right.
Right. So you're a Republican, you're a Democrat. No, I'm not. Before I'm a Republican or a Democrat, I'm a human being. I'm an individual.
Yep.
And if you're a Republican and I'm a Democrat, and if we get to know each other as individuals, we can then probably be Republicans and Democrat and be fine.
Right.
But instead, we identify people with
Labels.
so many different things, and we forget at the core foundation, we don't even know who they are as people and as individuals. And I think if we could strip all that away, and just essentially just get to know people and then love people, that's it. Then we could be different in some of the labels. I can like red and you can like blue. Who cares? We can still hang out.
I agree. I've got friends who I don't agree with politically. I see them on Facebook saying something ridiculous, and I'm like, well, that guy's still funny, and we still like the same types of movies. It's not going to change anything.
Right.
Are there any extra things? I'm asking coaches this year too, because people have been saying we need to have conversations. We need to be specific about being anti-racist or whatever it is. Are you just continue to do what you have been doing, or is there anything extra that your team is doing in the current climate? You've been doing it the whole time.
We will definitely continue to do what we've been doing.
Right.
I think the challenge is can we do more? And the answer to that currently right now is unknown.
Right.
Is if there is more that we can do, what is that? What does that look like? And if so, yeah, let's go. Let's use this incredible platform that we're blessed with to make change and to help encourage change. But to say that I already know what that is, what quote more is,
Right.
I don't right now.
Right. All right. I'm good.
Yeah,
We
appreciate
good?
it.
That was good. All right, episode 2. I'm with MNU men's soccer coach, head coach Kevin Wardlaw. Thanks for coming. That'll do it.